concerned about at the moment. We've just had our Queensland Disaster Management Committee meeting where the ministers were present with the heads of the department, but also to our mayors. And I thank everyone for the great work that has been happening across the state, as there are 83 fires currently. Many of these are, of course, under control. The three areas of main concern are Dalveen near Warwick, Herberton, but also to a small township called Watsonville, which is near Herberton, and that's an unfolding situation at the moment. So the Acting Fire Commissioner will update on that. There was moves earlier that there may have been needed to evacuate the Herberton Hospital, but that has now not had to happen, which is due to the amazing work that is happening by our men and women firefighters and rural fire service personnel, assisted by police right across the state. So with Dalveen near Stanthorpe, there are 30 rural properties that are being monitored, and those residents have been evacuated. And as I said, with Herberton and Watsonville, it's a unfolding situation, and I urge everyone to listen to the authorities. There are Facebook posts going out as well, telling people exactly the areas that could be impacted. So please, that's up Herberton, up on the Atherton Tablelands, so please everyone listen to authorities there. At Wallangarra, we've got 2 dwellings that have been impacted, and of course amazing work there yesterday where the township was saved. And we are closely monitoring the water supply for the town, and hopefully the power will be restored in the next 24 to 48 hours, so we thank people for their patience there. A lot of recovery work is now happening in relation to Tara, where there were 58 dwellings lost, around 387 dwellings saved. There are still 42 people left in the Dalby Evacuation Centre. And we also heard from, up in the Flinders Shire, we heard from the Mayor, Jane McNamara, up there as well. And I just want to do a big shout out, especially to people who are out there on their private properties. I think we all forget in the southeast that there are a lot of people who are managing fires on their properties as well. So we owe everybody a great deal of thanks for the extraordinary work that is happening. We have 84 personnel from Victoria that have landed and are travelling to the southwest and central Queensland, 27 fire crew coming from New Zealand in the next few days. Emergency assistance payments are being made. Already 677 people have received their payments, and the head of the Queensland Reconstruction Authority will be travelling out to each of the impacted areas next week to talk to the mayors and the CEOs. Minister Furner is here. He'll be talking further about fodder is a big issue, but we have that in hand, and if there is anyone out there that is in need of fodder, Minister Furner will tell you exactly where to go for that. Finally, can I just say in relation to housing, especially around the Tara area, we have 50 housing support staff on the ground helping and assisting. We know that this is a big task, and we're expecting those first demountables to be actually arriving this weekend, either Friday or Saturday. Finally, we have had some presentations. We had an update from Health, some presentations to the Dalby Hospital with people with some respiratory issues. Once again, please heed the health warnings. There's a lot of smoke around, and if you are feeling ill, please contact the local hospital or your local GP for further advice. I'll hand over to Laura to go through what's happening with the weather situation, and then we'll hear directly from our Acting Fire Commissioner, Steve.
So the update from the Bureau of Meteorology today is that there is a transition underway in southeast Queensland. So we're moving away from those hot, windy and dry conditions that we have been seeing for the last week. With that change, we are seeing storm activity. So the storms that we're seeing this afternoon are producing more rainfall than what we've seen over the past couple of days, which is good news for the fire grounds. So we saw 17 millimetres in 1 hour at Jimna in the Sunshine Coast and 20 millimetres at the Barumba Dam. So that's telling us that if we do see storms further south, they're likely to produce a little bit more rainfall than we have seen. Worth noting too that we do have warnings current for those storms. So they are producing winds, damaging winds and hail as well. So the warning is current for the Wide Bay and Burnett district. Important also to note that storm activity is typically isolated, so not all areas will see storms today, and it will be quite hit and miss for some areas, including the fire grounds. In addition to the storms, we are seeing a cool, moist air mass moving into the southeast parts of the state, and that is seeing a decrease in that warmer, drier air that we have seen that hasn't helped those fire conditions. Longer term, we are going to see an increased level of shower and storm activity across the southeast into next week. So in the southeast of the states, it's unlikely that we will see a return to these warmer, drier conditions for at least the next week. So that increased activity is really kicking off on Friday, and will go into the weekend and into next week. But important to note with that activity as well that it's not the entire state that's going to see that increase in rainfall. It's south of Rockhampton and not much more further west than Charleville. So it is very much for that southeast. And then just moving up to the rest of the state and to North Queensland, we still are seeing fire dangers that are high in North Queensland with no rainfall forecast for those areas. So into the next 4 days, we're seeing high fire danger ratings in the central west, northwest and the Channel Country as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Premier. So currently we've got 83 vegetation fires still active across the state, and a number of areas remain at emergency warning level. The focus of our particular attention with regard to those fires is up in the Herbert and Watsonville area, as the Premier indicated earlier, and in the Dalveen Granite Belt area, fires in that vicinity. We have been in a significant period of operational intensity for some period of time now. We do have some relief coming from interstate to support our firefighters on the ground. But I want to make a few points. I want to reach out and thank our community for your responsiveness and acknowledgement of warnings and taking heed of those warnings. It not only looks after your own safety, but it supports the safety of our emergency service personnel. So it's critical that you stay informed and respond to those warnings. Additionally, I'd really like to acknowledge the extraordinary efforts that our workforce across our rural fire service, staff and volunteers, our firefighters in the fire and rescue service, state emergency service, working in closely with all of our partners across emergency services and particularly local governments about how the efforts that they've put in that have saved life and property across this state over the last few weeks. It's been extraordinary, and I really acknowledge that and thank them for what they do and continue to do to keep our community safe. There are a number of those fires burning at emergency warning level, a number of others at watch and act level. So they are significant advisory levels. We need people in those fire impact or fire prone areas to remain vigilant and keep engaged and informed. Those warnings are available through multiple channels, so please stay engaged, whether it's through your radio, through your local communications with local disaster management groups, our warning systems and our QFES web pages. They provide various means for you to stay informed. Please do that. Can I just mention the connection mentioned earlier of the Tablelands area? It is an evolving fire situation up there. Stay connected, please, in that community and stay informed. That advice is based on your safety and the safety of the broader community. So, thank you.
Thank you. State Disaster Coordinator and then Mr.
Good afternoon. The State Disaster Centre's been overviewing all the activity of the fire across the whole state. The fire service, the rural fire service, the SES, the volunteers, and importantly the community have been doing a fantastic job during this period. I'm happy to report that the danger level in some areas such as Tara are moving to a recovery phase now. And that's starting to happen in a range of areas where we see the fires subsiding. The local councils have been doing an excellent job with managing the community and the disasters that have been unfolding over the last week. So I thank them for their efforts for doing that. The fires, although they seem to be jumping out at us from time to time, can I just say that they're predictable in some cases, or most cases, and there has been planning done around those fires to contain them, and we have seen really minimal loss of any property, although we have had some property loss, but certainly, unfortunately, we've only had one loss of life, which is the most important thing. And I thank the community for heeding the warnings of the emergency services. The police are out and about in all the communities at the moment, either assisting with evacuations or providing extra patrols in the affected areas. So ensuring the safety of the community. Thank you.
Good afternoon. As the Premier indicated, fodder will become an issue in the near days. Therefore, the Department of Agriculture and Fisheries has stood up a bushfire fodder task force. To access assistance through that, I asked primary producers to contact DAF on 13 25 23. At this stage, approximately 50 primary producers have made contact and will be receiving assistance through that task force. At this point in time, there will be 5 road trains of fodder heading to parts of Queensland. 2 of those road trains will be heading to Carnarvon area, the other 3 round to Burnett. In addition to this, I asked primary producers also to consider their entitlements through IDSP, Individual Disaster Stricken Property Assistance. That is managed through the Queensland Rural Industry Development Authority with up to $5,000 with freight assistance to get fodder to your properties, or to remove or to cart cattle to adjacent properties for their livelihood. In addition to that is up to $250,000 over 10 years for very low concessional loans to help in repairing and dealing with some of the damage that may occur on those properties. Once again, please contact DAF on 13 25 23 for assistance.
Thank you. Any questions for anyone at all?
Are there reports around? There are reports of an arsonist around 100 on the Gold Coast. How does that make you feel given the fire situation right now?
Well, that is very disturbing, but I might get the State Disaster Coordinator to comment on if there's any illegal activity and actions that police would be taking.
So that report come in today about that activity. A number of people were spoken to. It would appear that we can't establish that an arson did occur. As I've said before, that often people jump to the conclusion that it is arson, but often it's not arson. So it's obviously also commenced by natural causes. So we're investigating those matters. We have made one arrest already of a matter last Sunday where a fire was intentionally lit. We take a very dim view because it's putting our community at risk. So if we receive these reports, we're jumping on them straight away, they're investigated, and where we can, we will make an arrest. Can I just say, those people that would think that they partake in this type of activity, it's putting our community at danger, and we have a very dim view of it. Thank you.
Yes, of course. Yes, for the Fire Commission.
We've heard previously that obviously the firefighters on the ground are exhausted. Are you hopeful that the personnel from other states are going to give some sort of reprieve for them?
Look, yes, our crews have been out there and active for an extended period of time, long hours, hard work, difficult conditions. Having said that, we've got really strong fatigue management processes in place to support workforce, rotate them. We've been moving our resources around the state in order to support that activity, but it is great news that support from interstate is coming and going to be on the ground to enable to support that fatigue management and capacity on the ground. So it is great news for us, and we welcome that partnership that exists across the jurisdictions across Australia. That was an example yesterday of the interoperability between Queensland and New South Wales in that Wollongara area. Extraordinary efforts of combined interoperability between the states in that location.
How many air tankers was there yesterday at Wollongara?
There was a large aerial tankers, so the larger aircraft, there was 3 drops of large aerial tanker over the Wollongara fire, but a lot of additional aircraft supported that operation also.
And ground operations as well?
A lot of green crews on the ground, yeah.
Just one quick one, just on people looking after their own property, doing their own backburns and that sort of stuff. You suggest not to do that when fire ban conditions, or?
Yeah, so the majority of the state is under fire ban conditions. So in terms of putting fire on the ground, that is covered by fire bans. That's not to occur. Yeah, that's not part of. That's right. Bring in the appropriate resources to deal with those things. Yeah.
Sarah, is Herberton fire, is that threatening homes?
The Herberton fire itself is heading away from the Herberton community. It is at emergency warning level, so it is heading in a southwesterly direction towards properties, but not to the Herberton community itself. So it is an evolving fire situation, and we advise people in that area to stay informed, stay aware, have a plan in place in order to respond to the warning level as it arises.
Okay, thank you.